What basic, children's age-level fact did you only find out embarrassingly later in life? My wife always said she didn't like scallops. I would occasionally have them early on in our relationship and offer her some if they were really good, and she would decline. One day we got really fresh scallops at a dinner party that our friend's uncle had literally dived for that morning. They were so damn good, seared in butter with just a hint of rosemary. I said, "Honey, I know you don't like these that much, but you have to try a bite." His response was, "No thanks. I really just don't understand why people like something that makes your mouth go numb." We learned that day she was allergic to scallops. So did your mom just not want to tell you the truth? Or did she really think that? This just reminded me of when I was a little kid and my sister asked our teenage babysitter if she'd ever smoked pot. The babysitter got the super shocked look on her face and said that that was a very personal question and you should never ever ask anyone that unless maybe you were married to them. I eventually figured out it's not considered a particularly personal question by most people, and thought my babysitter was a weird prude. I was well into adulthood when I realized she just didn't want to tell us she'd smoked pot. I'm from Pennsylvania. When they do the nightly lottery drawings on TV, they always add a reminder at the end, "Benefits older Pennsylvanians every day." So, naturally, I just assumed that a lot of elderly people won the lottery. When I was a teen, I made a joke to my dad about him turning 50 and having a better shot at winning the lottery, and he looked at me like I was nuts. Turns out that benefits older Pennsylvanians every day means that the lottery is a fundraiser for senior services, and here I was thinking that it meant Grandma was winning millions on her scratch-offs. My granddad played this epic decades-long practical joke on me. Every Christmas for as long as I remember, he would put on Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, only the first disc, and he said it was a Christmas tradition. Every year without fail, he would put the CD on, regardless of if we were at his house or if he came to us that year. It was only at Christmas 2020, where I had Christmas without seeing any family due to COVID restrictions where I live, that I asked my housemate, "Do you want me to go stick on War of the Worlds now, or later?" Housemate looks at me perplexed. "What? You know, War of the Worlds." My granddad insisted it was tradition. "Only your granddad does that," I told him over video call Boxing Day. I never heard the old man laugh so hard. I'm from Australia, where we have a very summery Christmas. We still get the traditional images and movies, etc. plastered around the place, but we also grow up with the hot version of Christmas and assume everything else we see is a mixture of what the rest of the world experiences or is part of the magic and therefore not real. My husband is from England, and we went back to visit his family a few Christmases ago. While we were shopping in the town square, we visited a display to celebrate the occasion, and I couldn't believe that I was seeing real actual reindeer that actually existed. Everyone around me thought I was crazy, but I was a kid again, and all the magic of Christmas was real again. When I was 4 or 5, my mother brought me home a balloon one day, plain blue balloon with helium. I accidentally let it go and it flew away. Being little, I was devastated. Later that night she comes back from somewhere and tells me she was at the gas station and miraculously, my balloon just came floating by. Being a kid, I was thrilled and totally believed it. So fast forward 20 plus years, I'm on a date and we stop to get gas and we see a balloon floating by the gas station. Probably hadn't thought of that story again in all that time. So I start telling my date the story about how I had a balloon fly away, and then my mother found the very same balloon at a gas station, and then as I'm saying it out loud I realize, too late to not look like an idiot, that of course it wasn't the same freaking balloon. I've never seen someone laugh so hard. Lol. Okay, so I grew up on a small farm. We had cows, chickens, pig, rabbits and goats and more. On occasion we had to shear the goats. The goats would hold very still when being sheared, like statues still. I saw this on pretty regular occasion. When my parents would take me to get a haircut, they would tell the barber to give me a billy goat cut. Of course to me this meant hold really still. So I did. Had the same barber for a long time. Eventually he passed when I was in high school, leaving me to find a new barber. Imagine my and the new barber's surprise when he said, "How do you want it cut?" And I said, "I just want a normal Billy Goat cut." This is one of those things that makes me cringe at night. One of my mates from my master's grad school didn't know that there were male and female chickens. He thought roosters and hens were different breeds. The same went for cows. He justifies hating cheese because he thought cow's milk was cow urine. We had to explain to him that piss is not stored in the udders, and also asked him what he thought happened when human mothers breastfed newborns. Piss ain't stored in the tits, mate. We were 24 at the time. Tim, if you're reading this, you were way smarter than me at neuro-ophthalmology lol. Edit. I can't believe my most awarded comment is about cow piss. Thanks for the gold plus silver, guys, and thanks Tim. Sorry they roasted you, haha. I am from a northern city in the US. In basic training for the army, I was asked by the chow hall lady if I wanted grits with my eggs/bacon/breakfast. I had literally never seen or heard of them in my life. I lived a relatively sheltered and somewhat ethnic-focused dietary life. I asked her what they were, and she replied, "Well, they're just grits." So asked, as politely as I could, "Are they an animal, mineral, or a vegetable?" Luckily, my new friend from Florida was behind me, heard the entire conversation and said to me, "They're just corn, somewhere between creamed corn and cornmeal." He then said, "If you put butter and salt on them, they taste just like butter and salt." Loved that guy. He's probably a general now. That Apollo 13 was an actual event and not just a movie starring Tom Hanks would have been embarrassing in any context, but all the more so when I was working with CPT James Lovell and asked him why he was signing new paperbacks of Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks on the cover. "Oh, did you work on that movie?" I asked, beyond awkward. We had an hour's drive together, and so after he patiently explained that he was on that mission and as I had not seen the movie, I asked if he would tell me the story. He laughed and agreed. Okay, I've never met anyone who didn't think they already knew the story. Hearing him tell it to me was riveting and special. 25 years later I still cringe, but it was one of the best days in my life. He is truly an amazing human. I keep meaning to write it all out for and send it to the moth smile. Edit. Some words for clarity. At work and distracted. Edit. Gold. Thank you, kind stranger. There is a lot more to the story, most of which makes me look worse and him better. It took me another decade to appreciate the deeper lesson he offered me that day, but let me sum it up as slow down. Life teaches you how to live and how to love. Depends what you consider a child, I suppose, but in my mid-20s I moved up the food chain from server to bartender at the restaurant I worked at. Someone ordered a rum and coke. I didn't know what was in a rum and coke, so I told him so and but that I would figure it out. I figured out that what I had been understanding as a rum and coke my whole drinking life was in fact a rum and coke ... that I knew how to make. We know all about it in Africa because our sea cables for internet are always getting bitten by curious sharks or some shit, and then whole countries are back to dial-up internet speeds, sometimes for weeks. ETA. Here's an old video of the shark biting a cable. https://b/vjlk9fu, and here's the wiki article on undersea cables. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/submarine_communications_cable. Prov equals fl1. ETA. Okay, I can't speak for all of Africa, just South Africa. ETA. Also, ship anchors, whales, and storms can damage cables. ETA. Here's a map. For people who can't believe Africa has such limited redundancy, compare the number connections between New York and Europe, or literally anywhere else in the world. https://chromosome.files.wordpress.com/2008/22362764838 C96A9529.jpg. Edit. Great. My most upvoted comment is about sharks biting cables. Thanks. Okay, breaking out the alto count for this one. I am 25 years old. I have 2 degrees and I live on my own. I didn't learn until a few days ago that microwaving metal might start a fire. How can I not know? I don't own any. Edited for clarity. Metal cups, plates, bowls or serving dishes at home. I know not to leave cutlery in the microwave, but I didn't know it's because they're made of metal. All this time, I thought not putting forks in a microwave is simply an indisputable fact of life without any need for an explanation. I've never questioned it. I just do. And I lived happily ever after alongside this ignorance, until I don't anymore. During a volunteer shift I was asked to microwave several pet food bowls for our finicky eaters. One of the other volunteers quickly pointed out there are paper plates nearby and then left. I didn't get it. Why would I need paper plates? I couldn't figure it out. There's nobody around to ask, and the dogs need their dinners. So I just chucked the bowls in the microwave. The metal bowls. What are those crackling sounds? Huh? That's strange. Some sparks are flying. Yes, maybe this microwave is old. Just as I started wondering if I should take the bowl out, another volunteer walked past, spotted my innocent attempt at arson and straight up dive-bombed into the kitchen yelling, "Stop, stop, stop. Take it out. What are you doing?" Luckily I stopped the microwave before Armageddon happened. Unluckily, I now must explain myself. The sheer look on this poor soul's face when I honestly told him I didn't know is still branded to the back of my mind. I swear I could almost hear his thoughts. Am I lying? Has an arsonist, shears, grammar Nazis, successfully infiltrated their organization? Am I just that dumb? Is it possible to be so dumb? What else do I not know about the world? Am I an alien studying human life? Long story short, the other volunteer gave an overly detailed explanation about why metals can't go into microwaves. I apologized profusely, and now I don't volunteer there anymore. I remember when my youngest stepdaughter, 15-ish at the time, put Pop-Tarts in the microwave with the wrapper on, to weren't open but still on. They were in there for a couple seconds when I heard the popping and sizzling, turned around and saw blue lights dancing in there, stopped the microwave and asked her, "What the hell are you doing?" She just looked blankly at me and said, "It's not metal, it's plastic." I just looked at her aghast for a few seconds. I didn't realize she made it to that age without burning our house down. Although now that I think of it, there were a few times things broke in the oddest ways that I could never figure out. Not really a fact, but still something a child would understand that took me way too long to get. Ever since I can remember, my mom would do this thing where she would rub the top of my head and we'd have the following conversation: "Mom, what's this?" "Me? I don't know." "What?" "Her. It's a brain sucker." "What's it doing?" "Me? What?" With lots of giggling, of course. "Her. Starving." I would beg her to do this, oftentimes in front of people, because, even though I didn't get the joke, I was a sucker for a good head scratch. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that it dawned on me that my mom was calling me dumb. I'm in my mid-30s now and I still ask her to do it because, again, I'm a sucker for a good head scratch. Okay, this happened to a family member. When she was about 5 or 6, her dad told her goats, specifically mountain goats, right legs were longer than their left legs, so she asked, "And what if they need to turn around?" "Well, they fall over, so they can't, they walk around the entire mountain," he said. She only found out when her now husband and her went on holiday and saw mountain goats. "Their legs are the same length," she said to her husband, to which he replied, "Of course they are." And that's when it hit her. Her dad had played the ultimate long con on her. My great-grandfather had half a pinky on his left hand and always said it was because he liked to use it to sop up leftover pancake syrup and had worn it down to a nub. This made sense to me because I'd seen him do that plenty of times. I was so embarrassed to be in college before I realized that was ridiculous and finally asked him what really happened. In reality, he and my uncle had been working in their blacksmith shop, and my uncle accidentally brought a sledgehammer down on his pinky. He didn't want to traumatize me with the truth as a kid, but by the time I asked, I was more than old enough to handle it. Oh man, I remember when I was 15 and I was complaining with my friend about periods and all their inconveniences, as 15-year-old girls do. I mentioned that the most annoying thing about wearing tampons was that I had to change it every time I peed. She looked at me confused, asking if my flow was actually that heavy, and said I should see a doctor to go on the pill. I explained to her that it was because the pee couldn't come out past the tampon, and I obviously couldn't remove and reinsert a used tampon. Then she told me that the urethra and the vagina are two separate holes. I have never been more shocked in my life about my own lack of knowledge about female anatomy. This will probably get lost in the sea of already terrific revelations, but here goes. I'm always grateful this was caught rather early on before having the potential to embarrass me as bad as it could have. The famous equation E equals mx squared. Before it was properly explained to me as a child, I just assumed it was a breakdown of how the capital E is written. M looks like an E facing downward C. Add the C portion to illustrate that it needs to be standing up on its side with the open section facing right squared, as in square it off and get rid of the curvy bits and voila, and E equals an M plus C but with squared edges. My brain. How? Why there are no 10 birthday candles in stores. I was complaining about it with my husband and he said you're supposed to put 1 and 0 together and that was the lowest point in my entire life. Edit. So apparently some of you don't understand. I was just in the store with my husband when I saw some candles. I wasn't looking for wedding candles when I was 10. Obviously, I understand that there might be some candles that are 1 and 0 put together, or some variation that goes higher. I was merely saying that I hadn't seen one before. I'm not stupid. It was a simple error that I've only thought about like 5 times. I wasn't forming my entire personality around this one fact, but to those that were civil and jokey, thanks. Yeah, all are actually really funny. This isn't about me, but I thought I'd share it anyway. Also, nobody I've ever told this story to believes it. I'll let you decide for yourselves. I know I wouldn't believe it. As a kid I was round at a friend's house. We were maybe 12 years old. We were in the kitchen while my friend's mom was standing at the sink. I can't remember what she was doing, the washing up or something. Anyway, while she was doing whatever she was doing, she was looking out of the kitchen window, into the night. Suddenly, she let out a little cry, in a slightly startled voice. My friend asked her what was wrong. My friend's mom. The moon. My friend. What's wrong with it? My friend's mom. Well, where's the rest of it? She had apparently reached the age of, I don't know, 35, 40. Without ever noticing that the moon has phases and isn't always full. I remember a few years ago seeing on Reddit that Arnold from Hey Arnold isn't wearing a kilt, it's a really long plaid shirt worn under a sweater. Blew my mind. Even though you can see the collar of the shirt. Edit. I got another good one, but it wasn't me. I had to explain to my friend in her mid-20s that the vodka she loved had calories. She thought that because it was clear like water that it didn't have any. She was not happy. My father, who is a hardcore atheist, took me to see the third Narnia movie, and he also didn't know the Christian symbolism. Near the end, Aslan says something like, "In your world, you must know me by another name," and then stops. My father whispered to me, "Is he gonna tell us?" And I, not knowing that he didn't know, said, "It starts with the J." Jack, he guessed. "That's his name." "No," I replied. He thought for a few seconds and then said, "Oh, Jesus," and I could tell that he'd just lost any enjoyment he'd gotten from the movie. A friend of mine had a mom that would make sure there was an inch of room for his feet to grow whenever he got new shoes as a kid. He was in his 20s and trying on new shoes, and asked the salesperson if there was room at the tip. They looked up at him like he had a dick growing out of his forehead and said, "You don't need room, you're done growing." Oh off. Not me, but a friend of mine was flying to Italy from the US and that's when she found out England was an island. She thought it was attached to the rest of Europe. Obligatory edit that she's not the only idiot. Yes, I know England isn't the only thing on the island. Sorry Scotland. Pretty sure Wales is fake.